Hello everybody, Aiden here, and welcome into another video here on the Around the Slice YouTube channel. So continuing our 2026 NFL free agency positional breakdowns and slash previews, I am here today to give you an RB preview for this free agency class as we continue along here. I have these players sorted into multiple different buckets for today based on what I labeled them as, so let's get right into it. First, we have two players that I labeled as true locked in bell cows. I'm going to give you said players' age, what they're at the start of next season, so age as of September 3rd, 2026, what their previous AAV was in terms of the contract that just came off of playing on, and then what spot track projects them to get on their new deal, if you would. And finally, the really fun part for all you guys, we're going to play matchmaker. And for players that I have re-signing with their teams, I give a second option just for fun if they were to go elsewhere. So first, in the locked and loaded true bell cow category, no questions about being a bell cow, we have Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars, currently 27 years old. His previous AV was a first-round rookie deal, $3.2 million. Spotrick is projecting him honestly, not as aggressive as I thought. A bit conservative, in my opinion. $6.8 million per year on a new deal. I've been a big Travis Etienne homer / believer, if you would, his entire career. Obviously, he tore his ACL way back in his rookie year, probably for the best because that was stupid Urban Meyer in 2021. But with Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, he can handle volume in the rushing game. He's very efficient, and he can also handle pass catching duties as well. Now, there's a notion out there that the Jaguars want to pivot to Bashaud Tutin and let Travis Etienne walk, especially since they're in a very difficult cap situation and they have to pay a defensive stud in Devin Lloyd. But in my opinion, Bashaud Tutin is nowhere near ready for volume. Coming out of college, his rookie year, sure, he's a nice change of pace receiving back, but Travis Etienne is a pretty high-level receiving back as well, and he can handle actual bell cow duties. So for all parties, for all intents and purposes, predictably, my favorite landing spot, I do have Travis Etienne going back to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, he's not as important as Devin Lloyd, but he's pretty damn important, and I just said my quote-unquote concerns, if you will, with Bashaud Tutin, the notion that he's a bell cow. But if Travis Etienne were to switch teams, second option for players that were to switch teams just for fun, if they resign with the current team, I'm provided here. Second option. Let's say, for whatever reason, my prediction doesn't come to fruition and Etienne doesn't resign with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I look at the Tennessee Titans. Right now, you might be thinking, Aiden, they don't need a running back. And if they do, they can just draft Jeremiah Love 4th overall. So number one, you're right. They could draft Jeremiah Love overall because in all likelihood, I'm 99.9% sure they're going to move on from Tony Pollard via a cut. And it's unfortunate. People like the idea of Tyjae Spears, but the idea of Tyjae Spears has been more fun throughout his 3-year career than the actual production of Tyjae Spears. Two different things. So they could draft Jeremiah Love, but I think they should go for a more premium elite position like a Ruben Bain or more excitingly Carnell Tate. So I have Etienne signing with the Tennessee Titans in this situation. Again, Tyjae Spears can mix in for 5 to 8 touches a game, if that, right around there rather. But they need a true bell cow. So at first glance, you might not think the Titans need a running back, but by moving on from Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears being what he is at this point, or what he isn't, rather, for this situation at this point, I would like that if he were to leave the Jaguars. Keyword were to, because I think he does return. Next, a guy that people are split on. Some people hate him. You either love him or hate him. There's no in between. Super Bowl MVP, though, Kenny Walker, 25 years old. Previous AAV coming off $2.1 million. Spotrac is projecting him to be significantly more than Travis Etienne. I don't disagree with it. I just think they should be both in the ballpark of each other. $9 million per year for Kenneth Walker. Listen, I love Kenneth Walker. Maybe this is the fantasy football analyst in me talking, but it's very frustrating how they split Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I want Kenneth Walker to go be a bell cow. Because Kenneth Walker is explosive as hell. In short yards and goal line situations, sure, he struggles with vision and trying to bounce it outside too much, but he'll get him all the way down there, and then the red zone / goal line area, they'll just pluck him and pull him for Zach Charbonnet. And I'm not the biggest Charbonnet guy in the least, so. But if you were to ask me just 2 months ago, I would have said there is no world, no scenario on this planet where Kenneth Walker returns to the Seattle Seahawks. Well, Zach Charbonnet suffered a mid-January, so about a month and a half ago at this point, a mid-January ACL tear against the Chicago Bears in the divisional round in the playoffs this year. So he's probably going to miss most, if not all, of next season. So I completely changed my tune that Kenneth Walker will finally be a bell cow for the Seattle Seahawks. I know the Seattle Seahawks have a long list of free agents, but for a team that just won the Super Bowl, they're pretty damn lucky and have a ton of cap space. So I do have Kenneth Walker going back to the Seahawks. But if you were to change teams, what team are we looking at here? I pinpoint and go to immediately the Washington Commanders. They need a guy that's a dynamic receiving back who can handle a lot of volume. I like JCM, Bill, if you would. I like Ja'Cory Krosky-Marin. But doesn't catch the ball in the least. He has good vision, good enough burst, and once he gets moving, he gets moving. But, and then they have Chris Rodriguez, who in my opinion is the short yardage / goal line plotter. Doesn't catch passes either. They need a true dynamic athlete player at the running back position, so Kenneth Walker, the Commanders, would fit that bill perfectly. Now, I have two guys that I really do love still, like quite a bit, if you will, that are just below this. I label them potential bell cows because I think they believe that they are bell cows on their end, but I'm wondering if teams will view them the same. Maybe they will, maybe not. I hope for their sake they do. Rico Dowdle, 26 years old, $2.8 million previous AAV. Backtrack is projecting him for $6.5 million a year. I think that's a tad aggressive for what he's shown or not shown in his career, but I can live with it. There's no scenario on this planet where he's returning to the Carolina Panthers. It seems they still believe in Jonathan Brooks after the couple ACL tears. I'm not a Chuba Hubbard guy, but Rico Dowdle expressed to the media at the end of last season and alluded to the fact that he was quite pissed. He didn't use this word exactly, but he was quite pissed and upset that he had to split carries with Chuba Hubbard after he had those two monster games against the Miami Dolphins and Dallas Cowboys, respectively. He's not going to the Carolina Panthers. He's going to go to a team where he can be the guy. And I think the guy would be the New Orleans Saints. Crazy to say, but they're most likely going to cut Alvin Kamara, and then that leaves them with what? Audric Estime, Devin Neal, Evan Hull. What is that hodgepodge of players? So everyone said that they could draft Jeremiah Love at number 8 overall. Jeremiah Love could go as high as number 3 overall at Arizona Cardinals. I want to agree with it, but he could. I think Saints have to go the cheap-ish free agency route because I think they have too many other needs in the draft to be drafting Jeremiah Love 8th overall. So Rico Dowdle to the New Orleans Saints is my official prediction. Next, Tyler Algier. People forget he had 1,000 rushing yards and a rookie, and then it just happened to be by a quite literal generational prospect at the RP position in Bijan Robinson. 26 years old. It's a 5th round rookie contract, so $960,000 previous AV. Spot check projections $5.7 million per year on his new deal. I think that's great, and I think that would be great value to a team. I go to the Denver Broncos, a team that is reportedly all in on getting a running back next week, and I agree. I like Travis Etienne. I like RJ Harvey to a good amount, to a good extent, if you will. But he has a lot of limitations. He's a very dynamic receiving back, and when he bounces to the outside, he's gone. But as a pure rusher, he's lacking. He struggles to pick up blocks. He struggles to pick up rush lanes. And most importantly, he has pretty poor ball carrier vision. If you have poor ball carrier vision or are constantly getting tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage in the pure rushing game, then you're never going to get going. So I like RJ Harvey as a dynamic receiving back, but I think they need a volume back, a high upside volume back, who's actually proven it before in Tyler Algier to the Denver Broncos. Next, I labeled these next to you guys as high-end RB2s. Ideally, they're not your locked-in starter. But if you need them to, they can spot start in situations of injuries to the starters here and there, and they showed in the past that they can handle a workload when called upon. Ideally, you don't have to get to that, but we'll see. J.K. Dobbins, who's just unfortunately had injury after injury at this point in his career. He's only 27 years old, though. People act like he's in his early 30s. No, 27 years old, $2.1 million previous AAV with the Denver Broncos this past year. Patrick is projecting him $2.6 million per year. I think $2.5, maybe $3 million is right around the ballpark. I don't think he returns to the Denver Broncos. Like I said, I think the Denver Broncos want to get a true bell cow in Tyler Algier, I just mentioned. So, J.K. Dobbins, where did he have a career year? By far, his best year of his career was a couple of years ago with the Los Angeles Chargers. I know they have Omarion Hampton going into year 2, but Jim Harbaugh always likes to have veteran running backs, specifically J.K. Dobbins, at his disposal for certain goal line and more specifically pass pro situations. I think a reunion with Harbaugh and the Chargers would be excellent for all parties, especially Dobbins himself. Unfortunately, they'll probably get injured again. Kenneth Gainwell, who I think is getting a little overhyped now just because he led the Steelers in receiving yards. That's the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers, the check down machine at this point in his career. What do you expect? 27 years old, $1.8 million per year previous AAV, $2 million per year spot check projection. It's weird. I think fans like Jaylen Warren more than the Steelers themselves like Jaylen Warren as a player. And now with especially Mike McCarthy in there, I think Jaylen Warren might be just pigeonholed into a low-end RB2 role. So I do have Gainwell going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially considering the fact that Rodgers is like very heavily apparently leaning towards returning with one final season with Mike McCarthy. Check down machine, check down city over there at this point. So Kenneth Gainwell fits that perfectly. But if he were to leave, let's just assume Gainwell leaves Pittsburgh. Travis Etienne leaves Jacksonville. He needs a replacement. I've already discussed and explained my concerns and dove into my concerns, if you would, a little earlier on with Bashaw Tootin and his quote-unquote volume notion. I have Gainwell going to the Jaguars in the event that Etienne leaves Jacksonville and Gainwell himself leaves Pittsburgh. Next, again, high in RB2 bucket, Rachaad White. First couple years of his career, great. Volume back to the Buccaneers. Last couple years, though, injuries aside for Bucky Irving lapped him as a day 3 pick. So, also, I know they didn't pace the tender on Sean Tucker yesterday, but they're probably going to bring back Sean Tucker. I think he deserves it as a former year 3 UDFA. So, they're back. Sean Tucker will be the true handcuff / RB2 to Bucky Irving, not Rachaad White. So, no chance it goes back to the Bucs, but we'll see with landing spot. 27 years old, $1.3 million previous AV, $3 million per year spot check projection. Now, he's not necessarily a good pass blocker, and he's not necessarily like he doesn't have the best ball carrier vision, but when he gets in the open field, especially in the receiving game, he's gone. Rachaad White is a burst and explosiveness is the name of the game with him. And a team that I think will move on from their running back, DeAndre Swift, I think Rachaad White would replace him and go to the Chicago Bears. They like Kyle Monangai a lot. I like Kyle Monangai a lot. You know, my guy, Kyle Monangai. But Kyle Monangai doesn't catch the ball. He's a between the tackles, short yardage thumper. He's not overly athletic and explosive. So if you have a short yardage thumper, an early down back, if you would, that could go along with Rachaad White as an explosive receiving third down back, really nice 1-2 combo. Rachaad White, Chicago Bears. Next, Brian Robinson Jr. I think he could get a bit more than people are expecting, but we'll see what Patrick says. 27 years old, $1.3 million per year previously, so just like Rachaad White. $3.1 million per year spot check projection. I think that's right. 3.5 for both Rachaad White and Brian Robinson Jr. Rachaad White's obviously the much more accomplished pass catcher, but that's an area of a game that Brian Robinson Jr. is pretty underrated in. He's good enough in that department when you ask him to do it. He's not returning to the San Francisco 49ers. Let's get that out of the way right now, over and done with. They're paying a running back, elite running back, mind you, rightfully so, $16 million per year over the next few years with CMC Christian McCaffrey. So they're not going to pay another running back on a cheapish deal. What's a team that needs a high-end RB2 that can spot start in a key pinch situation? Well, the Detroit Lions just traded David Montgomery to the Houston Texans a few days ago. They need another short yardage goal line thumper back to go along with Jahmyr Gibbs in certain pass pro situations, just like David Montgomery was. And I'd argue that Brian Robinson Jr. has more upside than David Montgomery because of the underrated receiving ability. So I have Robinson going to the Detroit Lions. I think that would be an awesome compliment to Jahmyr Gibbs in a David Montgomery's successor replacement, if you would. Next, bounce back candidates. I have a few veterans here that due to injury or just very poor performance last year, could come at a decent enough value in free agency. First, Najee Harris only played 4 games and then tore his Achilles unfortunately last year. I've always been a Najee defender. Everyone says, oh, he's not explosive in the least. Okay, but he catches the ball very well. He can handle a ton of volume. He's seen 200 to 250 carries to 300 carries every single year before last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I don't understand what people are saying here, the hate with Najee Harris. 28 years old still, $5.3 million per year, previous AV. Obviously, that backfired in the Chargers last year, but bounce back. Patrick is projecting $2.9 million per year. This would be a great value for a team. I know the Dallas Cowboys just signed Javonte Williams. Speaking of that, let me get these 2 little things out of the way. One, Javonte Williams was primed to be in this position group, but Dallas Cowboys re-signed him to a 3-year, $24 million deal, 8 per year. He's like the 16th highest paid running back now. I think that's awesome value for the Cowboys. He looked great 2 years removed from his ACL tear last year. Next, I really feel bad for this player. The New York Jets are placing the franchise tag on Breece Hall. I just wanted him to go somewhere else. Just to showcase his talent. I think people don't realize how truly great and amazing, talented running back Breece Hall is because of the situation. But those couple things out of the way. Back to Najee Harris. I have him going to the Dallas Cowboys to spell Javonte Williams here and there. Maybe Javonte isn't nearly as efficient as he was last year. I could, for lack of a better term, I could give a shit about Jaden Blue, guys. I don't care. He's a very unrefined player. He couldn't even get a goddamn game day jersey last year, let alone actually get on the field. So they need legit RB2 over there. Next, Austin Eckler. As a veteran present in the room who's good in pass pro, you could do a lot worse. 31 years old. So he's not like in his mid to upper 30s yet. $4.2 million previous AV, $2.9 million spot rate projection. The Commanders, they're not re-signing him. They need to get younger basically everywhere. So I have Eckler going to the Carolina Panthers. They're going to lose Rico Dowdle. They sound very, very locked in, optimistic on Jonathan Brooks after a couple of ACL tears in a row, unfortunately. But maybe that just never works out. Maybe Drew Barber continues to be inefficient. I like Austin Eckler as a veteran presence to the Carolina Panthers. Next, is this the last guy here? No, sorry. Second to last guy in this bounce back candidate video. Not due bucket, if you will. Not due to injury, but very poor performance last year. Nick Chubb. He's absolutely broke his leg twice in a row in the last few years, unfortunately, and had other stuff going on. So 30 years old, $2.5 million per year, or previous AV. Patrick can project him not even slightly above the league minimum, $1.3 million per year. This is also one that I could see going to the Carolina Panthers. I think one of Austin Eckler or Nick Chubb needs to go to the Carolina Panthers as a veteran insurance policy for Jonathan Brooks. Last in this bucket, Isaiah Pacheco. I don't care about Isaiah Pacheco anymore. He's very inefficient. He doesn't catch the ball. He plays very wildly. That's why he gets injured all the time. $935,000 previous AV, the 7th round pick out of Rutgers. That's why. $4.3 million spot chip production. I'm probably giving him $2, maybe $2.5 million. Not even that. I've been going to the Arizona Cardinals. I'm of the mindset that the Cardinals don't need to go big splash with Jeremiah Love at number 3 overall or some big splash free agent, if you would, because I still believe in Trey Benson, but they need someone to work in tandem with Trey Benson, so maybe that could be Isaiah Pacheco. Next bucket here. Dynamic receiving backs. These guys are a mix of veterans and young guys who fit one role perfectly of third down receiving backs for one reason or another. First, Jerome Ford, who I think could be a very sneaky value in this entire class conversation as a whole. 26 years old, 1.8 million previous AV, 1.6 million spot check projection, so literally the same. A team that likes to have an RB2 is the Atlanta Falcons. They're 100% going to lose Tyler Algier, as I explained earlier. Jerome Ford has more receiving upside, much more receiving upside than Tyler Algier, but they like to have an RB2 over there who they can give 5 to 8 touches a game to. Jerome Ford makes sense for the perfect sense for the Atlanta Falcons. Next, Raheem Mostert. A few years ago, he had all that production with the Miami Dolphins. He's a pretty poor rusher at this point in his career, but he's very good in pass pro still a very good pass catcher. 34 years old, $1.6 million previous AV, $1.3 million spot check projection. I could see this lingering for quite a few weeks, month and a half, even pushing 2 months. This could be like a late April / early May signing. But I think he does go back to the Las Vegas Raiders. But just for fun, secondary option. I personally believe that the Minnesota Vikings need to rehaul and get younger with the whole RB room. And they've already done that by releasing Aaron Jones. And they have Jordan Mason. They're probably going to go the draft route and double dip there. But a veteran receiving pass pro presence like Raheem Mostert wouldn't hurt to the Minnesota Vikings. Next, Emmanuel Wilson. He's a pretty decent runner and is a pretty decent receiver as well. 27 years old. 1 million previous AV. Spot check is no projection. I would guess 1.5, maybe 2 million, if that. I do have him going back to the Green Bay Packers, but what if the Seahawks lose Kenneth Walker and they don't want to pay a true bell cow? What if they want to go on the low end route with invest in a couple guys where they can split work with while Charbonnet recovers? You could sign Emmanuel Wilson to the Seattle Seahawks. Next bucket, or last bucket here of the day, roster depth. I only have landing spots for these guys. There's 15 names here because honestly, half of these guys will only be RB3 / special teams teamers, and then half of these guys might not even make a team in opening day next year in week 1. First, Antonio Gibson. He's just a kick returner at this point in his career, but he's decent in pass pro, but he has major fumbling issues, and he's coming off a torn ACL. Next, a guy that I just don't get it with why he was on the field so much for the Texans last year. Maybe it's because of pass pro. I have no freaking clue. Dare Ogunbowale. Just have him cover kicks and punts. That's it. Don't have him do anything else. He doesn't provide value there. Travis Homer. This is just a better special teamer than Dare. So, yeah. Kareem Hunt. The Chiefs are infatuated with this guy. They can't roll with the slow-ass duo of Isaiah Pacheco, slow-ass, efficient-ass duo of Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt anymore. As a veteran RB3, though, who can come in on certain situations, I guess, in short yards or goal line. Sure, I guess. Next, strictly just a returner. Probably just a practice squad caliber. Kene Nwangu, Alexander Madison, who's been a dud his entire career and arguably the most inefficient running back in the league. He is coming up a major knee injury. Next, A.J. Dillon. I was a fan of for his first couple years of his career, but now he's like a fringe roster guy. Miles Sanders, who maybe he'll come back from his career-threatening neck injury. Maybe he won't, but even without that injury aside, I don't think he's very good. If you want a roster clogger, I guess. Next, Jeremy McNichols. He's a specialized pass catcher. I wasn't going to put him up there with the other better options, but is an RB3 for certain pass pro veteran situations. Sure. Amir Abdullah. This is just a film room guy to help in the room. You really don't ever want him on the field. Khalil Herbert. His trajectory has been weird. First year in the league as a UDFA, he looked great, and then beyond that, he bounced around. Michael Carter, practice squad guy at this point. He had a decent little run with the Jets his first couple of years and then bounced around and got opportunities that literal RB4 or 5 for the Cardinals last year because everyone got injured. Zamir White, I was burned in this in fantasy so many times, and now I think he sucks, but yeah, I don't know. He was replaced by Raheem Mostert of all people. Next, Ty Chandler. I don't really get the value here. He's an undersized running back. Maybe he's a kick/punt returner. Next, Jalen McLaughlin. Talk about undersized. This is a true scat back who was okay his first year as a UDFA out of Youngstown State. His first year with Sean Payton and the Broncos, and they didn't tender him, which tells you a lot. So, anyways, guys, those are all our unrestricted free agents, and then some roster cloggers / depth players at the running back position. Bit of housekeeping over the next few days. Keep your head on a swivel. We're going to have double uploads on this channel over each day over the next few days, maybe even triple uploads over the weekend. You just never know. And then the chaos begins next week. We'll have great videos, best signings, worst signings, a mock draft, which, by the way, I'm going to have a post-combine mock draft coming out later this week / over the weekend. Anyways, guys, you can follow me on Twitter /X at AWagner13 for any additional NFL thoughts, opinions, and discussions. Please like and subscribe. Please share this video with anyone and everyone you know. It would be greatly appreciated. Let me know down in the comments below. Who do you think will get the most per year, APY value-wise, on their new contract? Who do you think is overhyped, underrated? Who do you think could come in as a great veteran value in this class? All that down below. Thank you for the support as always. I will see you next time. Goodbye.